Hey, and this is part two, and hey, it's Heroes time, crossover time. Now we are going to be checking out Super Saiyan 3 Rose, we're going to be checking out Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta, but Berserk controlled, and then of course we have a nice Tower. So Crimson Mass Saiyan, in a sense, Super Saiyan 3 Rose. This guy also has a transformation, so this could be pretty good. So, Dragon Ball Heroes, Super Saiyan 3, or Transformation Boost the full 170 with the additional being for crossover. So it's very much the same as as the Vegito. So he is the extreme class counterpart of full on big time unit. This guy even has the transformation. He's good in the sense that it's transformation boost and or Super Saiyan 3. Those two could work out really well. Having a full 170% for Super Saiyan 3 again, that could work out just period as a brilliant lead. So if you pull him, probably not the worst in the world, but again, transformation boost and crossover would be nice. There is a few Super Saiyan 3s and crossover. We're talking like AGL Trunks into Gohan. I mean, both of them would be good on this. They'd have a 200% for Super Saiyan 3s. So let's have a look. 3 key 180%. Definitely like it. I like it when we have a big time unit coming in with key because it makes the world of difference between not needing anything and then having another unit which does need something. It's all of it. So 3 key 180%. We get 150% on attack, of which your super attack effect, you stack attack and then a 30% defense. Coming in at 55%, 7.8. Same as Vegito, except maybe like 100 points higher. Same as Vegito. Max 10.4, so a little less than Vegito. Coming in at one dupe is 9.1. So again, start of turn of 55%, maybe slightly higher, but remember, might not be so much because he has 180% and Vegito would have 200%. So I think it makes a bit of a difference. So they're more or less level pegging, but they do there is a bit of a gap when when you go up through the ranks. This guy, however, does have a 50% chance to guard, which that itself is pretty nuts because that's just no condition. You have a 50% chance to guard. Now, this will be the chance to guard where it's per attack. So if you've got it in the turn, brilliant. But if it hits you multiple times and you don't get it, then you don't get it. So 100% defense and guaranteed guard when there is three or more crossover allies on the team. Okay, so work it out, and it's essentially like Super Hearts. Super Hearts from last year was a beast. He had guard, but he had even more stats as well, depending on crossover or what was it, time travelers. So this would be pretty good to see what his team can be built. You launch an additional attack that has a 70% chance to become a super attack. If you're up against a Goku, then he transforms. Could be better when he transforms. Depending on what he's got. So he's got, so of course, of which your super attack, you do get defense, but you do stack attack. Brutal Beatdown, Super Saiyan, Godly Power, Prepare for Battle, Nightmare, Fear and Faith, Fierce Battle. Now we know before we check that because of like Brutal Beatdown and Nightmare with Super Saiyan, Broly, the new Broly, is going to link up pretty well with him. And we can see right here, new Broly is, there he is. So again, it's because of like Brutal Beatdown and Nightmare in particular. But yeah, because it is Super Saiyan Rose, well, Super Saiyan 3 Rose, no doubt that the Blacks and Zamasus are going to work out pretty well. Why is Janemba on this? Janemba's on this because, well, actually, probably because of these two. Yeah, so he's going to work with Broly. Well, in essence, crossover Broly. He's going to work well with the Blacks and Time Travelers. So you are going to be able to stick him on the Time Travelers, which did really well in terms of buffs for the Worldwide Download celebration. So yeah, that's going to be pretty bonkers. So he is going to fit in well. Super Saiyan 3 gets a buff, which is a bit unusual. We're talking Inhuman Deed, Crossover Heroes, Time Travelers, Corroded Body and Mind. So I'm thinking Super Saiyan 3, Inhuman Deeds, Corroded, Time Travelers, Crossover and Heroes. Now, of which Corroded in essence, you could get the Blacks into that. In Human Deeds, you can get the blacks and the new Zamasus into that. So this guy filling in the blanks could be really nice because none of this is dependent. Whether I mean, like most of this is not dependent on a crossover. But if you do have three or more on the team, so he is a 180%, so you could have the guest as one, then you could have a Broly, and if you did pull the other Vegito, you could at least rock him. Now, I don't think Vegito's on here, but at least could be on the team, so that could be pretty good. So it's not strictly the worst. Flip a coin, but otherwise, this could be good. Having the extra defense with the guard could be pretty good. Anyway, so he transforms from the fifth turn, no HP restriction, no nothing, no. It's just a turn timer. No ally, no HP, and then we get the guy. So he rips off his top. He becomes a bit more buff, and we remove a bit more of his mask. But more importantly, he decides to rip off his top. So let's have a look. 40% HP, and from the next turn recovers 15%. Okay, so pretty good. He heals 40% and then basically 15% every turn. And that's the start as well. So that's really powerful actually, going into every turn with 15%. So again, you rock him on like time travelers because these guys heal 15% at the start of every rotation. This guy does about the same. So the roses and the blacks are about to they're going to be immortal. Like these guys heal like 20% or something like that. These guys give 15. This guy's going to give you 15. Yeah, I can see him being really nice on this. 4 key 200% stats. Okay, so this is the Vegito comparison, right? Okay, 4 key 200% to stats. Now we're talking 150% on stat when attacking. Your super attack effect, you do now raise attack and defense to the turn. So you stacked up a little bit, but you're still getting a little extra attack and you're still getting a little extra defense. So you raise attack and defense by up to 150. The more HP remaining, the greater the stab boost. So you will lose it's usually roughly every 10% lost. You would lose a chunk, so that's fine. You would lose about 15% every 10% lost. You're guaranteed a guard. Do get to turn 5 and you're guaranteed a guard whilst healing, whilst having 200, whilst having this. So if you could legitimately maybe go into slot 1 because this will be designed to get you close to full health. You're getting this, and then you could be on like a double 200% lead, even double 180%. And there could potentially be support from this guy who is a 50% support for Realm of Gods, Extreme Class Realm of Gods, which he is. He might just be one of my more favorite units. Launches an additional attack that has a 50% chance to become a super, and if there's an enemy whose name includes Super Saiyan Blue, you launch another additional attack that has a 70% chance to super. Dude, he's designed. That there's a really difficult event, isn't there? On the I can't remember what it's called, but it's up against. It's just one phase, and it's like STR Vegito Blue, the new one. God, he's an absolute monster. This guy, he's kind of designed. I mean, he's type disadvantage, but he's kind of designed somewhere around that. So that could be pretty interesting. That could be his biggest hurdle. Is that particular event? But he's wow. Okay, yeah, no, he's pretty good. Crossover could be a bit of a wonky one, but when you do transform, you do guarantee the guard, and there's no extra defense pending on crossover. You just get per HP, which is slightly better. But the heal, the fact that, I mean, he doesn't have big bad bosses, which is probably his only weakness, or one of the few things you could pick at, right? Because like he fits in really well, and I really like this guy. Just no big bad bosses. I mean, we could get rid of anything from this, anything. Maybe like Super Saiyan, maybe Nightmare, maybe Fear and Faith. Hell, I'd get rid of Prepared for Battle for big bad bosses because he would then fit in exquisitely with the blacks. But yeah, okay. So he is still a beast of a unit. If you pull him, fantastic. You don't be disappointed. He would work out for Super Saiyan 3, Transformation Boost, Time Travelers. I mean, you name it. I mean, yeah. And of course, if you like them with the tops ripped off, go for it. Right, so now we have. Okay, this is special in the way that it's the first one, but it's his Blue Vegeta Berserk Controlled. Some point on this, he faces. What is it? Cumber, and he faces Turles. And Turles has been boosted. You remember how weak Turles would be in comparison? Then he gets boosted with this dark Berserk energy. And absolutely proceeds to kick Vegeta's ass. And then all of a sudden, Vegeta gets it, controls it, and then turns the tide. So this is the first iteration of a new Vegeta because he doesn't have Ultra Instinct. So what does he have? Well, he has Ultra Ego. But before we get to Ultra Ego, he gets this. So this is the first Vegeta where we're getting a new power level from him. So it doesn't look like he does a lot, and I don't think he's meant to be a lot because he's a banner unit, he's a support unit that came out alongside. The main unit would be Vegito or this guy, Super Saiyan 3 Rose. So Vegeta is just a complement unit, but he's the first one of the new era, which is going to be pretty good. So he's a crossover 130%. So 3 key 180% stats. Pretty good. What does it come in with? 55%. I say rather respectable. It's rather average 7,500. 100% comes in at 10.5. It's very similar to Broly and, of course, Rose. So coming in at 69%, you can see a huge difference. If you have two of these, you're going to be looking pretty good. So, yeah, anyway. 3 key 180%, you have a 30% chance to crit, you have a 50% additional 50% stats, chance to crit 10%, and per Dragon Ball Heroes in the same turn, so that's 20%. So you can have 20% chance to crit and 100% to stats, depending on how many heroes. That's not too bad. Additional 40% with each super attacked, so that's up to 120%. So that's each super attacked, and super attacked alone. Right. You get an additional 120% attack and a chance to crit when facing one enemy. Launches an additional super attack and 50% chance to dodge when facing two or more enemies. Okay, so let's have a look. So he builds up with each super attack performed. The additionals built in against two or more enemies. Two or more enemies would give him 50% chance to dodge, and his super attack is a raised defense for the turn. Disables enemy guard, so int doesn't slow him down per se. So you raise defense for the turn. He does a lot, but it's all higgledy-piggledy mess. 180%. 100% to stats and a 10% and 20% to crit. You have 120% to stats on top of this. 100%, 120%. Interesting. You also get 120% attack on top of 120% attack when facing one enemy with 50% chance to crit. Or two or more enemies, you just get the 120% extra, this 100% extra, and 50% chance to dodge. 50% chance to dodge seems pretty respectable. Having a 50% chance to crit against one enemy, I suppose there's a chance then that if you're in Super Battle Road, you could drop to one enemy and suddenly you get the extra crit chance. This has on paper, it looks pretty good. Has the huge amount of potential to do well on this. You do raise defense for the turn. Disables enemy guard is interesting. Let's have a look. So same warrior race, prodigy, Super Saiyan, royal lineage, same pride, prayer for battle, fierce battle. Okay, so we have got some key links in here. Pure Saiyans, Vegeta family, Power Beyond. I mean, have a look at this. Gifted warriors, miraculous awakening, worthy rivals. Vegeta family could get a nice buff. Of course, it's 100% Vegeta, Best one going for him is probably this, because we're on heroes and crossover, so that would trigger one of the links. And that's probably all she wrote, folks, because that's about it. Yeah, Super Vegeta would come in quite nicely. In fact, all of these are triggering many, many links. I mean, this is actually pretty solid, and he's still triggering 5 links, including key links. This guy, pretty much the same, but he needs some orbs. It's nice that this guy doesn't need orbs. He's not orb dependent. He just needs, I mean, a good portion of his stats will be depending on heroes in the same turn. So ultimately, you will need a couple. It is nice that you can rock this guy who would trigger stuff like Royal Lineage and Prepared for Battle. The fact that he's also getting 3 key, you don't strictly need it, but the stats alone would be nice. So this is pretty good. So he can work in various situations. So it'd be nice. But yes. Speaking of which, how do you build these guys? So remember, Vegeta was like dodge. You want to go dodge because he has some additionals and he has some crits built in, and he only stacked attack, so he could go dodge. Whereas this guy, so he still get defense on super attack, so it's legitimate for legitimately you could actually get the additional in there. And crits, well, he has a decent amount of power. There's no dodge per se in this, so you could legitimately go dodge per se. You could do that because he could be used in slot 1. There's still no dodge built in this, so again, I would say you could go additional, but you probably also want to maybe bounce out, do a little bit of dodge. This guy, you could probably argue additional. He's not going to hit the hardest nor be the most defensive, but being able to get additional hits in this, because you could lose out on this. This is the only true way you build it up, and you kind of need additionals because of each super attack performed. So you kind of need that. So additionals could be this guy's best friend. And then lastly, Toa. Last of the new units. Good God, Toa. Now, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Heroes 3 key 50%. So she's straight up going to be an easy A. That'll be 77%. So let's have a look. 150% no key. Interesting. Now you get oh no. So she doesn't awaken. Oh, she doesn't awaken. She does awaken. Wow, she awakens and this is it. Are we serious? Wow, okay. This is what we're doing. So we have 150% of stats, of which rocking in we have 8,500. That's probably one of the highest we've seen. Coming in at 100%, not very great, but has slightly better start of turn stats. One dupe puts you very close to actually the best stats that you can get. Wow, that's pretty ridiculous. So Toa, 150%. Getting 100% on super attack, okay? You have a 30% chance to dodge as the second or third attacker in a turn. That's good because she doesn't look like she's built for slot 1. All allies get 20% to stats when there are 3 or more extreme class allies on the team. Okay. 50% to stats when performing a super attack. All allies get 1 key and 10% to stats. And you change AGL to SDR when all allies are in the Dragon Ball Heroes category. Well, you probably do that because in order to get extreme class allies, and also, by the way, to work with the other unit, Dark King Fu, who's also extreme SDR, you're probably going to want Dragon Ball Heroes because he kind of needs the same sort of deal. He is also a 30% support and also needs STR key spheres, which she is also an orb changer. They're both STR orb changers. So they're both going to give, but potentially if you get this, fit between them 50% to stats. And then the key is ultimately dependent on this. This is interesting. So she would give it if there's just Dragon Ball Heroes, which in turn would allow Dark King Fu to collect said STR key spheres, and he gets himself 10% dodge, 4% stats, and gives 1 key per STR up to 5. So he can have a 50% chance to dodge, 20% stats, and give everyone and then give everyone 5 key, which is pretty monstrous. Whilst combined they give 50%. So the two of them could work pretty decently side by side, but that would imply then you'd have to run them side by side, which is interesting, which is real interesting. So how do we do this? So yeah, okay. So let's have a look. So let's have a look. So, Demonic Power, Solid Support, Battlefield Diva, Master of Magic, Shattering the Limit, Scientist, and Thirst for Conquest. Okay. She is on Terrifying Conquerors. Interesting. Peppy Gal, Sibling Bonds, Resurrected, Time Travelers, Heroes and Crossover, Battle Wits. So, you're not going to run her on Terrifying Conquerors. You're not realistically going to run her on Peppy Gals because she doesn't have, well, she does have Battlefield Diva, I suppose. But you're just not going to run them on Peppy Gals unless you run her, and her, which is you just don't. Resurrected Warriors, maybe. Time Travelers, these three, probably, right? You're probably running on these three. Mainly, she'll just be crossover in Heroes, and she'll just be a floater. She does have a small amount of dodge as the second or third attacker. Her EZA is evident because of this. So yeah, so these two are pretty good. This is the story one, right? Yeah, and she awakens with the story. So the last of the new units is still pretty respectable, but yeah, let's have a look. There's a lot here that could be changed. She is made to go alongside Dark King Fu, that's for sure. Greatly raise attack for the turn. Okay, so the EZA could be attack and defense. We just don't know just yet. Yes. So interesting. Interesting. And of course, she was the free to play unit last year, and she's getting an EZA now. So it'll be this time next year when she will have her EZA to something more respectable. As a free to play unit, it's nothing special, but all of the second half of this is designed to go with Dark King Fu, and as well, they're both extreme SDR. Interesting how Dark King Fu is not on here. But yeah, interesting. Okay, so those are the last three. We have someone who you go with additionals, someone you go with additionals, and they're pretty bonkers, and then this nice little unit, which is interesting. So yeah, tell me which one of these is your favorite. So we've got Super Saiyan 3 Rose and the first ever new generation of Vegeta. Remember, there will be stronger, better ones of him, of course, but it's just nice to know that he's now finally in the game and it creates a new pathway. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all on the other videos. Boy, there's a lot to do. Anyway, thank you and bye bye.